The Chillicothe-Ross Chamber of Commerce held its Outlook Breakfast on Friday. Our Mike Smith talks with Mike Throne, the CEO and president of the Chillicothe-Ross Chamber of Commerce, in just a moment. Right after this from McDonald's.
I started working for McDonald's when I was 17. My parents told me that I had to get a job or my car was getting taken away from me. So I immediately went in there and applied, and the next day I was part of the crew. What really brings me to McDonald's, it's my people, it's my customers. I've had a lot of opportunity. I went from being a crew person and I've moved up all the way up to being a store manager. So yeah, just the opportunity of moving up, and it's a wonderful company to work for.
We're joined by Chillicothe-Ross Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Mike Throne, doing this interview after an earlier breakfast where they are looking forward into 2021, the outlook for the community. Mike, first of all, this was done virtually. How do you feel things went with that way of trying to reach out?
Well, the technology is sound. The person operating it might not have been, but I think we got through it. You know, there was quite a bit of, I guess for me, it was a learning experience to do the technology, but from what I've been told, people really couldn't tell. So that actually works out pretty well. So I think we would all prefer to be together, but you know, until we can really do that, this is the best way we can do it.
Number of topics this morning. Tiffany Baldwin with Downtown Chillicothe, Tammy Elenardo with Greater Chillicothe and Ross County Development. You also had Health Commissioner on with you. Also a speaker from JP Morgan, who actually was the featured speaker. But a couple of the points that came out in the discussion this morning I thought were really fascinating that I was not aware of. For example, Tiffany Baldwin referring to 20 new businesses that started in the Chillicothe downtown in 2020, despite there being a pandemic, and 8 have already started in 2021.
Yeah, you know, I think the thing that we can be really proud of, nobody really can point at 2020 and say, "Wow, what a super banner year." You know, I think there's a few people that could do that, but you know, I think the work that we did over the last decade prepared us very well for 2020. So that way, when things happened and they were in the negative, you know, we did have businesses that closed in downtown, and we certainly lament that. But we didn't have to sit around and worry about where the next business was going to come. There were people that were already dreaming and trying to figure out how to get in downtown. And for some of those folks, it presented a great opportunity. So when we talk about those 20 new businesses that came to downtown last year and the 8 that we've already seen in downtown for this year, it's really a tribute to the work that we did over the last decade to make it a better place to locate. And that's really a tribute to the folks that bought buildings and invested in them to make them better, or had the existing building and moved forward with the renovations, and then allow those entrepreneurs to really unveil their dreams in those spots.
Talking about the planning that is going into this process, as you recall, Mike, even when you were working with the Chillicothe Gazette, the age-old argument for anything developing downtown was parking. How did that work around that problem to get it fixed?
Yeah, we're actually very excited for this spring because even though we didn't talk about this today much, we've got a brand new way of enforcing parking this year. It'll be unveiled in the spring. The city signed a deal with Park Mobile, so they'll provide an app that you can literally go to your parking space, type in your license plate number, pay on your phone. There will be meters, and they will still accept coins, but of course, you know, you'll have to run back out if you do the coin operated part of it, if your meter is about to expire. Where if you're sitting at a downtown restaurant or in a shop and you get a notice on your phone that says, "Hey, your meter is about to expire," you can literally pay right there. And I think it's a really exciting way. We're kind of joining with a lot of different groups. You see this a lot in Columbus. Some smaller cities in New Jersey and places like that have them. So expect to see a lot of signage, a lot of marketing centered around this new parking system this year. We didn't increase spots. We are going to talk a lot about the free lots this year. There are 3 different free lots in downtown, and we're going to try to push those a lot. In fact, one of them now has an electric car charging station in it that was supplied by AAP this last year.
Yeah.
So I think those are some of the exciting things that are going on around town that folks can feel confident as they go to downtown that they'll be able to find a spot with enforcement. We're not trying to penalize folks for coming downtown. Our hope is to keep traffic flow moving. And so if we can get people in and out of these spots, or if you can park at the free lot, if you're going to be down there for a long period of time, it opens up a lot more parking in front of businesses that could be patronized quicker as well. So we're excited about what parking is going to do in 2021, because I think for the most part, it's going to represent more people getting into these businesses and maybe even more people coming, especially as the summer gets in there. People coming from out of the community into the community to patronize downtown.
When you're talking to someone that, let's say they've never been to Chillicothe's downtown, someone from out of the area, someone from out of the state, how do you try to describe downtown Chillicothe that might want to attract them here?
Yeah, it's actually a great source of pride, and I think it's a great source of pride for both Tammy and Tiffany as well. The thing that I tell people is, whatever you expect a small downtown to be, we're better than that. And I think we're continuing to get better. The mix of businesses that we have, from your shops and your clothing and bookstores and things like that, to your hair salons, to the variety of restaurants that we have, the variety of offerings there. If you want to grab a drink, we've got a place that sells great cocktails, but we also have 2 brand new breweries, and one of those offers its own food, and the other has got a partnership with an existing restaurant that allows there to be food taken in there as well. It's just an eclectic mix of places downtown that you can patronize and enjoy. And there are new offerings being offered by people that are already there. If you want to come into town, spend a day shopping or stopping and painting pottery, or browsing books, or grabbing some of your favorite beverages, you've got a variety of places to do that. And it's really exciting to see that happen. And I think, as we continue to evolve and maybe some of the other vacant businesses become something, I think it's just going to get better. So I tell them, come be a part and come see what Ohio Southeastern, Ohio SE has said is the best downtown revitalization. And we think we can live up to that title, and we'll continue to do it.
You alluded to Tammy Elinardo. Of course, Tammy is Economic Development Director, and she referred to the new business, General Fasteners. They are occupying half of the spec building. Petland, who recently came out with an expansion news release, they're going to take the other half of that 50,000 square feet. But some other numbers that Tammy had I thought were interesting. Thanks to some $248,000 in grant support and a commitment of $837,000 in new capital investment, that has helped them to retain and have new payroll just over $2 million. A lot of people don't realize that kind of money is happening in our community.
Well, and I think it's really just a really good indication of, in order to grow your community, you got to retain the jobs that you have first. And I think obviously with what happened last year with COVID, I think we learned that very acutely. When you see Adena Healthcare having to do layoffs and Kenworth having to do layoffs, and that's going to be a trickle down, and we know that. As they called people back, we started to also get the commitments from General Fasteners and from Petland to continue that success story there. And I think it really is one of those things where let's protect what we've got first, and then we can worry about how we develop jobs in the future. One of the other things that Tammy talked about in detail today was the fact that the near spec building, which is where General Fasteners and Petland are going to be located, it's full now. And so now we need to try to figure out what the next spec building is going to look like. and then work to get it built and then filled as well. And I think that's an important thing. It's actually a great source of pride, I think, for this community that we can sit and say, we had a dream, we built a building that we thought could house some people and some businesses. That got done. Now it's on to the next dream and how we get that next building built and filled. And then, just continuing to try to find folks that will support a lot of the bigger businesses that we have here. Or if a new company wants to come in and join the mix of our larger employers, they can certainly do that. And I think, getting that spec building built is going to be a big key for us in 2021 and beyond.
In fact, Tammy added to that point that we may have missed out on some opportunities in 2022 because we didn't have that additional spec building space.
Yeah, that's lamentable. I mean, obviously, we don't like to hear that, but at the same time, it's a good indication that people are interested in coming in Ross County. And so they want us to provide the business conditions that we can do. And, obviously that's part of our mission at the Chamber. And so we're willing to partner with Tammy and her group, Tiffany and her group, to continue to do that. We did that in downtown last year. We created a downtown redevelopment district. And we're willing to do that and research all the ways that we can help get that spec building built. It would be great if we could have, maybe 2 of those buildings. So that way, we would have plenty of space to work with as we move forward. And we have the space to do it. We just got to get the commitments from the investors to make sure that we have the building and the space to do it,
Ross County Health District Commissioner Garrett Giozzi also weighed in as to what they had been doing through much of 2020. And he said, frankly, 2021 is going to be a lot of the same thing. How do you feel that the health district has done working with local businesses to try to keep as many of these establishments open as possible?
Well, first of all, Mike, I'll say you did much better at pronouncing his name than I did. So thank you for that. Well, I said it on the call today, and I'll say it again. I can't say enough about how the Ross County Health District has partnered with the Chamber over the last year to get out the best possible information to help us educate our businesses about the threat of COVID, about the reality of the restrictions that they had, and then how to educate customers and employees on how to best keep everybody safe. From Ben Avery, who was in his role there prior, to now Garrett and Kelly Dennis, Logan Calhoun. I worked with all those guys over the last year, and I can tell you, I felt like I felt supported. There was nobody that was out trying, from my perspective, trying to get a gotcha any business. A lot of times what I heard was they received a complaint and they worked really well with the business to try to rectify whatever issue was complained about. So I really think that, they've been really good about educating folks about the vaccines. At the Chamber, we joined the Stop the Spread Ohio Coalition. And they were a part of that as well. And we're excited to get out that information. We're working hard right now to get information about what the vaccines do. I myself am going to be vaccinated next Friday. So I'm pretty confident that as the year progresses, that we're going to continue to see the downward trend, and that maybe in 2022 we'll be doing an Outlook breakfast where we can all gather again. And it'll be the first time that we'll be able to do that since March of last year. So we're kind of excited about that and hopeful.
Something that the featured speaker, Ryan Wardlow of JP Morgan, talked about, the top 3 winners in the S&P 500, among them online retail, up 62%. How have our local stores embraced online to help them not only keep going, but maybe even make some profit?
Yeah, I think, when COVID came on, I think people were sort of looking at it like, well, let's see what happens with the shutdown. But there were some people that capitalized very quickly on that by saying, we're going to offer carryout services, we're going to offer curbside delivery, things like that. The folks that saw the most bang for their buck were the folks that already kind of had these online services going. They were using, things like Square and things like that to reach out to folks. The folks that didn't have that and had to develop it, well, they were slower to the roll on that. And I think the good news is I think a lot of them learned very, very quickly, and we helped match some folks. We have partnerships with Elevon and other places like that where you can do a lot of that online e-commerce type stuff. And I think, when we matched some of those folks up, they had to learn very quickly, but they were up to the task. I tell people a lot, e-commerce doesn't just mean using your Square or your e-commerce register. It could be something as easy, and we saw this with a lot of our antique dealers. It's hard to have people come into your shop. So what they started doing was they started doing Facebook Lives, where they did almost like an auction type setup. Porch Swing Days was one that had great success with that in downtown. And so, it could be something as simple as that. I know Tara Gillum at Steiner's did cocktail videos and then sold those cocktails through her bar. So like there's a lot of ways to do things through social media, through e-commerce that I think that people really had to pick up on. And, we all had to learn Zoom in the last year or Microsoft Teams or something like that. Those that were on the Outlook Breakfast saw my painful learning process for the webinar procedure of that this time around. But, it's all just part of a learning process. And I think the more that we get used to these things, the better off I think we're going to be. Even when we come back to being in person again, and we can be up to full capacity at our restaurants and our stores and bars and things like that, I still think people are going to be utilizing these tools just in case, hey, I don't have time to run out and do this today. How can I do this through their website? And we actually, through the CARES Act, funded several different places that upped their level of e-commerce game or invested in new equipment to allow them to take advantage of that.
Well, Mike, now that spring training is underway, we'll use a baseball metaphor. We're rounding third and heading for home. Let's come back to the chamber. You said during the breakfast conference that you were hopeful that you could get maybe the annual meeting done in July, and the annual golf course outing or chamber golf outing would be September the 17th. But I think you said you're now taking nominations for Entrepreneur of the Year for the annual meeting.
Yeah, we're going to start next week with that. We'll have our forms available through our website. We'll do a lot of social media promotion of that as well. Entrepreneur of the Year, Corporate Citizen, Legacy, and Young Professional. We'll be taking all those nominations. Our hope is to have the annual meeting in mid-July. We're working on an outdoor venue for that. We're sensitive to the fact that OUC may not be able to host events even going into the summer. So not to mention the fact that it's harder for them to do it during the summer because they significantly have a slowdown during the summer. So we're working with them, but at the same time we're looking at a couple other venues so that way we can maybe lock down something and get everybody together. Especially with the size of a crowd that we have, we got to have an outdoor area. Just pray that there's no rain in the middle of July. But we're also looking to do the golf outing. It was, I think, one of my great regrets of last year was not pulling the trigger on the golf outing. We just didn't have the sponsors and the golfers that I thought we would have. So, but we're committed to doing it this year. We kind of pushed everything back, especially the annual meeting, because we just wanted to hedge our bets and see where COVID would take us, and then also be able to have the ability to do the outdoor venues. And we're not shying away from our business after business or our women in business luncheons or things like that. As the warmer months approach, we're looking at ways to do those as well. We may have to do them distanced. We may have to do them in smaller crowds than we're used to doing, but we're willing to try to do them and see where it goes. So, I think 2021 for us really looks like as we move forward, we want to try to ramp things up as much as we can possibly do. But we want to keep people safe. We want to keep people with the ability to come back to our events when we can really open it up. So we're willing to try to do everything we can to keep everybody safe.
As always, Mike, good to visit with you.
Good to visit with you, Mike. Congratulations on your new spot. And I'm looking forward to what you and Dan can do.
All right. Again, our good friend, Mike Throne, President and CEO of the Chillicothe-Ross Chamber of Commerce.